Howdy folks, how you doing? I'm a Reverend Danny Crosby, Unitarian minister serving congregations in Altrincham and Urmston in the northwest of England. I do hope you're finding the love and witnessing those blessings that are present in life in these difficult times. It is hard, my friends, but we are all in this one together. I'm offering these devotions as my little bit of hope, doing what I can, playing my role in being a part of the solution. These devotions are offered as a balm for the heart, the mind, the spirit and the soul. And the title for today's little reflection is The Long Now Moment. The Long Now Moment. So I invite us to still ourselves. Let's invite a loving presence to be here amongst us and to awaken from deep, deep within us all. I have lit the flame of freedom in this cup of belonging, acceptance and love. We join together in our physical separation, but united in our devotion to life and to love. Help us to sing for joy like the birds each morning sing their faith in being alive and being here, while acknowledging the very real suffering that is a part of all life. May we know the deep connections that sustain us, the roots that hold and nurture us, those roots so deep beneath the surface of our lives. May we not be afraid to explore the depths of being, the many layers of life. May we remember that we are deeply connected in heart, mind, spirit and soul. May we remember that we are deep, deep connections that run so deep, those roots that connect beneath the surfaces of our lives. May they hold us firm as we open to all the things that this day brings, to all that life offers, and may we offer our all to life. May our very fragile human being become a vessel of love this day and in all the days to come. May we be open to all life offers this day in all the days to come. Amen. I'm going to begin actually with a short time of prayer. So I invite us just to join together in prayer. Let us pray. Let's pray with each breath. We pause in the stillness to rest for a moment, to quiet ourselves so that we can feel what stirs within. Each breath draws us closer to the pulse of life, and with each exhalation we make room for something new. May we find in this time the comfort and the care that life offers to each of us. May we encounter patience along the growing edges and compassion in our most tender spots. In this time may we find the inspiration and encouragement that we need to face our challenges and to nurture ourselves. And in the presence of suffering across the globe, may we redouble our efforts to practice kindness where we are, with the hope that the light of our actions travels like the light of faraway stars. May our gestures of compassion and generosity seed possibility. May we walk humbly with one another, choosing reconciliation over resentment as we try to live life-sized, as we try to live our life right-sized. Let's be who we are. When life presses in and shifts us off balance, when pain assails us, when frustration mounts, may the rhythm of our breath steady us. May that steady rhythm bring us back to the place of gratitude, that we live at all, that we're given this chance to live. May we be grateful. Amen. They say that patience is a virtue, but is it one that any of us have yet learnt? I don't know if I have. I'm going to begin by sharing 3 short stories on patience, something that really is like gold in this our instant culture. Something that we need to practice even more, I think, in these challenging times, difficult times. We need to be patient. Anyway, here's the first. A young man approached the venerable master seeking guidance. If I meditate 8 hours a day and study the sutras 4 hours every night, how long will it take me for me to gain enlightenment? 10 years, the master replied. Well, the novice was taken aback. That long? He gasped. Well then, what if I practice for 10 hours a day and study for 6? How long then? 20 years, said the master. But how can that be? The novice wondered. And the master just shook his head and sighed. For someone who is in such a hurry, enlightenment does not come easily. And another tale. Some years ago, a Zen student was sitting with his teacher when the teacher received a much anticipated letter from an old friend. Knowing his teacher had been waiting a long time for the letter and must have been eager to read its contents, the student started to excuse himself. Stop! The teacher boomed. Please stay. I will open the letter later. Well, don't you want to open the letter now? The student inquired, surprised somewhat. I know how long you've waited for this letter and news from your friend. It's right here in the envelope. Yes, said the teacher. I have waited long, but I cannot open the letter until I have conquered the haste that I feel. Once that has run its course, I will open it. And finally, Shibli sought out Junyad as a teacher and said to him, Many people have informed me that you are the supreme expert on the pearls of awakening and divine wisdom. Either give me one of these pearls or sell one to me. Junaid smiled. If I sell you one, you won't be able to pay the price. If I give you one, coming by it so easily will drive you to undervalue this very same pearl. Do like me, dive headfirst into the sea. If you wait patiently, you will obtain your pearl. A pearl of great price indeed, to quote some other text. So the advice is, as a practice, to dive deeper into your spiritual practice and watch for a pearl. Watch for a pearl. Be patient. So here are some thoughts on the long now moment. A little while ago, while listening to Something Understood on Sunday morning on Radio 4, I heard a reference to the long now moment and the long now foundation. I have to say it spoke to me very powerfully as it shared some of my long-held frustration with some understandings of contemporary spirituality, particularly how people talk so much or give so much emphasis is made of the now or the present, and how I find that it often feels somewhat self-centered, some of the talk around the subject. See, for me, it's not just about living in the moment or the moments, but how we live in the time and the space in which we find ourselves, and to truly see that this time and this space is connected to all that has ever been and all that will ever be. What really matters is how we inhabit time and space. For how we inhabit time and space affects everything. It's not just about living passively in the moment, but it's about bringing the time and the space in which we find ourselves to life. And by doing so, we create a legacy for all that follows. The long now moment and talk of it speaks powerfully to my heart, my mind, and perhaps most importantly to my soul. The long now moment is inspired by a story, which might not be true, but their mythos doesn't have to literally be true to speak truth. It's a story of old, rotting oak beams in New College, Oxford. New College, Oxford was founded in the 14th century, so it's not that new, is it? And at its heart lies a dining hall that features expensive oak beams across the ceiling. Now, these great beams had lasted about 500 years. But during the late 19th century, an entomologist discovered that they had become infested with beetles and needed replacing. This was a big problem for the college, as such beams of sufficient size and quality would be hard to find and very expensive. One of the college's junior fellows suggested that there might be some worthy oaks within the college lands. The college had, when it was formed, been endowed with land scattered around England, and this land was run by the college forester. Not the same one, obviously. The forester was called in and asked if there were any such oaks on the college lands. He paused for a moment, and then a reassuring expression appeared on his face, and he said, "Well, sirs, we was wondering when you'd be asking." I'm sure that wasn't his accent, but that's my attempt at doing some kind of country accent, so I do apologise if I've offended anybody there. Accents are not my thing. It seems, though, that when the college had been founded, a grove of oaks had been planted to replace the beams in the dining hall when they became beetly, because oak beams apparently always become beetly in the end. It seems that this plan had been passed down from one forester to the next for over 500 years. Each forester was told that, "You can't cut them oaks, them's for the college hall." So it would appear that the founders of New College, Oxford were not just obsessed with themselves and their time and their place. They thought of their legacy, of the generations that would follow. Now, this story, whether true or apocryphal, has become a foundational tale of those who advocate for the long now moment. It's developed in response, really, to the fast-paced, instant society that we live in today, one that does not really think of the future and has a kind of disrespect for the past. The innovative musician, producer and composer Brian Eno is one of the key proponents of the long now moment. He became interested in long now living after moving to New York. He was shocked at how instant and insular the people living there were. It was almost as if nothing existed outside of the moment folk were living in, or outside of the windows of the buildings that they were enclosed within. He said that now is never just a moment. The long now is the recognition that the precise moment you're in grows out of the past and is a seed for the future. The longer your sense of now, the more past and future it includes. It's ironic that at a time when humankind is at a peak of its technical powers, able to create huge global changes that will echo down the centuries, most of our social systems seem geared to increasingly short nows. Huge industries feel pressure to plan for the bottom line and the next shareholders' meeting. Politicians feel forced to perform for the next election or even opinion poll. The media attracts bigger audiences by spurring instant and heated reactions to human interest stories, while overlooking longer-term issues the real human interest. Danny Hills of the Long Now Foundation has been working on creating a long time clock as a kind of practical symbol of the long now living. The idea is to create a clock that will last 10,000 years. Human society has existed for 10,000 years, and the idea is to put our current place at the halfway point of this. On the face of it, this seems like a crazy idea. How can a machine last this long? How is that possible? The point is, though, to get us to think about the future. As Stuart Brand himself has said, such a clock is sufficiently impressive and well engineered, would embody deep time for people. It should be charismatic to visit, interesting to think about, and famous enough to become iconic in the public discourse. Ideally, it would do for thinking about time what the photographs of Earth from space had done for thinking about the environment. Such icons reframe the way that people think. And if you'd like, there's some wonderful clips on YouTube of this clock. Look it up. It's phenomenal, the ideas about what they'd like to do with the clock they're trying to create. Such a clock as an icon, as a powerful symbol, may just help us transcend the selfish thinking that keeps us enslaved in our time and space. Such short-term thinking can be deeply destructive. Long now living can slow us down and help us to connect and begin to live reverently again. Help us to connect to life and then reveal life again, and time and space again, actually. To respect and have reverence for life. It will help us to begin to understand how we live and act really matters. That how we live and act affects our lives and impacts on the lives of others. The problem is, you see, we want things now and we want them instantly. We have no patience. There's nothing new here, by the way. We humans have always had a tendency towards this. Perhaps this is why the religious traditions have always suggested that we need to slow down and connect, and thus begin to revere once again. But also to see our lives in historical context, that we're part of something more than just our little selves in this little moment, enclosed in. Brings to mind the story of Elijah in the book of Kings. Elijah wanted to know God, but he wanted to know God instantly. So he goes to a cave on Mount Horeb, where he is told that God will pass by and speak directly to him. A great wind comes, followed by an earthquake and then a fire. But we are told that God is in none of them. Following the fire comes a still, small voice. A sound like silence. The voice that is less than a whisper. Less than a whisper. Less than a whisper. And yet not quite silence. This voice signals the presence of the divine. Elijah had to be still and he had to be silent in order to know the divine. He couldn't rush it, he couldn't force it. It took patience and it took real faith to be still. Now, of course, this is mythos. The one thing that survived the 10,000 years that human society has been around, of course, are the stories, the tales, the mythos that we have shared. These stories are timeless. They move through time and can speak to we who live today, even though many were first told thousands of years ago. In many ways, it is the stories and not the machines, actually, that connect the generations to one another. To me, the stories are the perfect example of what it means to believe in the long now moment. Like the stories of New College, like the story of New College and its oak beams. The stories connect us to the past. They connect us definitely to the present, and they connect us to the future and help us just to see how important it is that we leave a legacy for those who follow us. The stories help us to create empathy for the other not yet born, that will live when we're long dead and gone. Will we have a legacy for 500 years later? It's a good question. Everything matters. How we live now matters. Just as how those who lived before us mattered. All life is connected and interconnected, past, present and future. So how we live today will affect what is yet to come. So as we live day by day, let us not do so passively, living in the short now, thinking only of ourselves and how we feel right now in this moment. Let us instead extend our compassion beyond the confines of our little egocentric worlds. Let's think beyond the skin we're in and the walls that we live in, and develop compassion not only for those who live today, but for the generations that are yet to come. Let's begin to live in the long now moment and expand our empathy and bring the moment that we live in fully to life by so doing, remembering all that came before us. Let's build a legacy for those who follow, so that our lives will prove worth dying for by those legacies of love that we leave behind. I'm going to end today's reflection with a few words of blessing. We need to bless more, you know. We can all bless. We can all bless by giving our whole hearts to life. So let's begin now. Let's give our whole hearts to life. I offer these words as a final blessing for today. May the Eternal bless you and protect you. May the Eternal smile on you and favour you. May the Eternal befriend you and prosper you. And may we carry the song of the Eternal with us, and may we do so in all that we feel, in all that we think, in all that we say, in all that we do. Amen.